You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
What's up, everyone? Paul Apostolakis, Salvatore Kuzmano. We are Inside Real Estate. Brad Weisgerber could not be with us today, what does that mean, Sal? We're going to have a much better show. Yeah, he's camping, right? I wonder what he's like when he's camping. He's probably dirty as hell. Like his feet probably look like all black, right?
Yeah, I think he's just in his element, you know.
He loves it. He's got this huge camper, just so everybody knows, and he uses it. He's used it like 3 times ever. So I think it's time he used it more, right? So good for him. I mean, he's taking some well-deserved time off. We don't normally take a lot of time off as a group, but it's good that he took some time off. So today's show, we've got a guest that's been on before. Tonya Eberhart. She's awesome. She's founder of BrandFace, where she helps real estate agents and just professionals kind of work on their branding, building stories around their brand. We've had her on before, so we're not going to go into the history of like what she does. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Just nothing.
Okay. So for those of you that have tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. Please go on and subscribe to our show, like, share, leave us a review. Stop laughing.
I don't know.
Like, share, and please leave us a review. It does help us out. You can find us on, if you want to watch us live, go to Facebook.com/IRE podcast. You can go to IREpodcast.com. You can go to any podcast app. You can also find us on YouTube. So please do find us. And if you have found us, thank you. So tune in. But without further ado, let's bring up Tonya onto the show. I really want to, I love talking to branding experts because that's what we do. I mean, that's kind of like a near and dear to our heart. Tonya, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm great, guys. How are you?
Doing well. So obviously we had you on the show before, so we don't have to go into like the history or any of that. But I wanted to talk to you today about what's new. What's coming across? What are you doing today to help a lot of agents brand themselves? I know a lot of it is figuring out their story and kind of, making that public and kind of marrying that. But tell me in your words today, as competitive as it is. I mean, since the last time we talked, the real estate market has gotten even more competitive than it was when we talked the first time, which was already competitive. And I think in today's market, it's more important than ever to brand yourself, to set yourself apart so that you have a voice out of this massive bunch of real estate agents. How do you just differentiate yourself, right? So, Tonya, what are you seeing in today's market that is causing maybe some hurdles for people to try to do that?
Well, I don't know that it's so much hurdles. I think it's just a mindset that a lot of people really believe that if they have a photo, a logo, and maybe some cool tagline, they've got a brand. Right. Yeah. And that's the biggest hurdle they face is within their own mind. So what they don't realize, though, is that still doesn't explain to me the full story, if you will, of why I should do business with you over anybody else. Right. So, I feel like that's the biggest challenge people face. And what we bring to that as a solution is what we call the 3D freedom formula. And we help people define, develop, and display a personal brand that, number one, helps them stand out, helps them differentiate themselves. First of all, figure out what is it that makes you different. Second of all, figure out how to develop that and then display that brand. So there's a lot that goes on in the midst of those 3 things. We look at 77 different criteria when we brand somebody, actually. Oh, wow. Don't ask me to recite all 77 right now. I don't have them committed to memory.
That's all right.
They are in a list. And so that's really where we come in and help them see that they're missing the fullness of the brand. They're just missing the story.
Yeah, it's funny. You said, you've got to define it first, right? You really have to sit there and take the time and define who or what are you going to be in this marketplace, right? And a lot of people have a hard time with that, I believe. Like they probably don't have, and they don't even realize they probably already have a definition, but they probably get stuck on that. How do you help people define what their brand is going to be? I mean, getting them to that point where they're like, okay, this is the definition of what I want to be.
Okay, so that's a great question because it is the number one question that people have when they come to us. It's like, well, I know 8 things that set me apart. I know how I'm different from most other agents, but I don't know how to pull all of that together into one thing that I stand for and put a bow around it and put it out there to the world. I feel like, especially in today's world where it is much more competitive and much more competitive in a visible manner, social media, for instance, gives us all kind of this level playing field, but we still kind of market ourselves, put ourselves out there pretty much the same when it comes to real estate. Everybody's website starts to look the same. Their social media posts start to look the same. The business cards look the same. So what we take a look at is not just the professional aspect of it, but who are you as a human being? Think about how voyeuristic a society we are. Think about the people with the most followers on social media. They're putting themselves out there, not just in a business or professional aspect, but definitely a personal one. They're sharing, like you mentioned with Brad, he's out camping. Michael and I love camping. We share that on social media. Yeah. We have this side-by-side that we drive up mountains and we show that on social media, and people connect to you because they feel that, sense of adventure, perhaps. They connect with you on a different level than just, oh, they sell real estate or they do branding.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's funny because you've mentioned something, everything kind of gets homogenized in our business, right? One person will have a post where they're holding up a sign and it's unique and everybody's like, oh, look at that. And the next thing you know, every other person is doing the same thing and kind of just copying the same thing that somebody else saw, and it almost loses its luster. So how do you keep it fresh in the sea of like so many different voices? How do you keep your story? The side by side's great, but then maybe somebody else is like, oh, I'm going to do that, right? How do you continue? Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? There's a lot of plagiarism, which is not, there's nothing wrong with it. But how do you keep it fresh, right? How do you keep it? How do you keep your story fresh from everybody else?
Well, the first thing I think is we like to look at a brand like a book. So your brand is your story. However, you can't put the entire contents of your story on the cover of the book, right? So we got to have a really good cover. And one of the ways that we have a good cover is by coming up with what we call a brand identifier. You might call that a tagline or a slogan. We call it a brand identifier because we feel that's exactly what it does. It identifies what you stand for, which is your brand. Yeah. So when you come up with that and you're known for that thing, right? And I'll give you, an example. We've got a couple of agents down in Venice, Florida, and they're known as the lifestyle locators. So they participate in that Florida lifestyle every day, in that area, walkable communities, boating, biking to work, all of those kind of things. So they like to portray that kind of lifestyle to people moving into the area or even people in the area that want to know them, not just based on, hey, I sell real estate in this area, but like, why should I buy in this area? Why should I buy from you? Well, they understand that lifestyle better. So when somebody sees a lifestyle locator on their stuff, then it instantly makes you stand up and take notice. Hey, what's that? That's unique. That's different. Now, one great thing about that is you could copycat maybe them biking to work or getting on a boat, but you can't copycat lifestyle locators because it is trademarked. So
there you go.
There you go.
There you
That's
go.
one way to do it. Now, we have a bunch of trademarked brand identifiers that our agents can license if they would like in their specific area, exclusive to their area. So you're not ever going to be competing against somebody who might be a lifestyle locator in Idaho.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it, to really stand out. Also, you got to understand the copycatters are not going to be consistent. You have to.
You nailed it. The consistency part of what you're talking about is, I believe, in my opinion, the hardest part of branding.
Oh, yes. And it's Michael's favorite part, and he would be applauding right now.
Yes, because it's Sal, this, dude. We've been doing this podcast, and it's 155 episodes. I've done videos, but the hardest part of all of that is doing 155 episodes consistently over a 3-year period. And Sal, it's a grind for us. Sometimes we don't feel like doing the show, and sometimes it's like, okay, like some things get messed up, but like we do it. And it's
like anything, right? I mean, you can't expect any results by just doing it once in a while. You're not going to be fit and in shape if you work out once a month.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
that's a fair thing. Yeah.
Even if you think you're doing something consistency, the frequency might not be enough to make a difference.
Right.
You know?
Right. So when you say consistent, Tonya, talk to me about that, because that's something that's near and dear to my heart. Because I have a lot of LOs, and we do a lot of social, and we do a lot of marketing, and they're always like, "Oh, I'm going to do this thing," and I'm like, "Awesome." I go, "But you've got to do it over a long period of time and be consistent about it." And you know, sure as shit, someone will do like 1 or 2 posts, or they do it for a couple of weeks, and they're like, "Oh, I had this thing pop up." So how do you coach consistency?
Yeah, it's the shiny disorder, especially in real estate. You see anything shiny, or the squirrel, you know, going across the screen, and it's like, boom, I have changed my mind, right?
Yep.
You know, first of all, you've got to really commit to who you are and your story, because once you do, it becomes so easy to be consistent. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is defining themselves. Like, what is that point of differentiation? What do you want to stand for or be known for? Because you can be known for something, but when you're consistent with that, you become recognized for it. And there's a big difference between those two, is knowing something and being recognized for something. And I think it's just feeling comfortable in your skin to make that commitment, to say, this is what I'm going to be known for, right? Yeah. I'll kind of give you, for instance, of my own story. I had an integrated marketing company that I started back in 2006. And I started that to help media companies, because I was in the media world. I realized that radio, television, and newspaper, the traditional media companies, had no idea how to utilize the internet. And it was this, you know, brand new thing coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so I started a company called Remerge, and we were re-emerging, you know, media, traditional media with new media. And I was teaching them that. And then all of a sudden that morphed over the next few years into, now I can help anybody do any kind of marketing. And all of a sudden you're sitting there one day and you're thinking, you know, I could do business with almost anybody that walks through that door. Yeah. And then the bad part is, hey, I could do business with almost anybody that walks through that door.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out, what is my passion? What is my strength? What's going to sustain me? And what suit can I wear for the rest of my life, right? For the rest of my career. And I knew from the very beginning, from selling vacuum cleaners door to door to pay my way through college, to getting that first radio job, and 18 years later still being in media, I learned one thing: my story sold me. Yeah. And I could help business owners who wanted to be the face of their business to tell their story, and they would become the most recognized and very often #1 businesses in their local areas. So it's like, that was my passion. I wanted to help people tell their story. And so once I decided that, it was so easy to be consistent.
Yeah. For you,
you got to believe, you've got to have something you're super passionate about, because if you're not, then it is a fleeting thing. It's that squirrel one day and this squirrel the next.
Yeah. Consistency is so key to branding. I just really, really believe that. So what do you do when you, Sal, you got something?
I was going to ask, so like, obviously being consistent with your brand and who you are and your message is very important, but is there ever a point in your mind when it's, because I think there's 2 parts, right? There's a consistency of the message, and then there's also probably the frequency in which you relay that, right? And can you overdo it?
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, with the frequency?
I guess I'd probably be making a mistake to say, no, you can't overdo it. But in today's world, think about how we interact with other people. It's a soundbite world. Boom, boom, boom. It all started with Twitter, really. You know, you had in the beginning 140 characters to put out there on social media, and you get on Twitter, and all of a sudden it's like a running list, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you can't keep up with it. It's all, you know, so in that term, it depends on the platform, and that terminology, you know, you can't do too much, right? But I think too, as long as you're doing it with authenticity, you're being yourself, and you're sharing your knowledge, and you're giving your gifts to the world, you'll find your people will come. You will attract your people, as long as you're defined properly to do that. Did I answer that question for you, Sal?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of translate that to my terms, right? I'm not like a big marketing guy, but like as long as because I mean, there's not enough time to probably spam someone with that many authentic messages, right? But as long as your messages are authentic and recorded, consistent with your brand, I don't think you can overdo it, right? But
no, because they can unfollow you as easily as they follow you, right? They
right.
can decide to watch your video today and not watch it tomorrow. So as long as you're consistent, I don't know that you can be too, you can have too
Right.
much frequently.
I would rather see someone err on the side of being a little annoying as opposed to not doing it, right? I think
Very true.
I always said, like, when I used to make videos a lot, I have slowed down a little bit, but for 3 years I did videos every week, right? And I always said, like, someone might be making fun of me or saying that's on too much or whatever it may be, but they're talking about me. They know who I am. And the next time I see them, they're gonna be like, oh, that's Paul, right? It didn't bother me as much to think, okay, I might be doing too much of it, because I'd rather err on that side. Does that make sense, Tonya?
It makes a lot of sense. And going back to my old radio days, because there's such a parallel here, I like to tell these stories. My clients would call me up sometime and say, would you please switch out my commercial? If I hear that stupid commercial one more time, I need to come in and cut a new commercial. And I said, no, you don't. It's only been running like 2 weeks. I said, you got to understand, not everybody sits and puts their radio on their desk every day or listens to, to radio through the internet to listen to their commercials. Like, people don't listen to the radio station the way you do because you're advertising on it. The rest of the world is normal.
Yeah.
They hear the commercials, but they don't listen to the same radio station all day long usually. So the frequency that you think is happening is not really happening out there in the real world. Right.
What do you say to the people that are like, man, I did a few posts and I only got like 100 views, or I did this, and when we first started doing our podcast, I think we'd get like 80 downloads a week, or whatever it was, and it was very minimal, and it could be very discouraging to move that boulder from the very beginning, right? Right. I think that's also very hard for someone to be looking at this big task, and they look at it as a big task, and they're not getting those results right away. What do you say to those people?
I say, remember that treadmill in your basement that you said you were going to use when you bought it, and 6 months later is still a clothes hanger, right?
Right.
Imagine for a minute, if you used that treadmill every single day like you said you were going to do, where you would be today.
Yeah. What's funny about that? I used to say this, Tonya. I used to say, well, we got 80 listens. It's not really that much, but if we got to talk in front of a room of 80 people, that'd be a pretty big success, right? If I had 80, 100 people in a room that I could actually reach. So I think people's perceptions are kind of skewed when it comes to like social or whatever it may be, because they feel like maybe 100 views is not that much, but where else are you going to get 100 people to listen or hear you, right?
I'm so glad you brought that up. We actually did, we interviewed a social media influencer on our podcast the other day, and she works mostly in Instagram. And we asked her, are the days gone when you can just start something on social media and all of a sudden have 100,000 followers? She said, I hate to say it because I consult people and I help them grow their audiences and fans and followers. She said, but those days are gone. Yeah. Those days are gone for most of us,
Right.
Unless you do something incredibly outlandish that you wouldn't want your grandmother to know about. But yeah, those days are gone. And really, why do we need 100,000 people? 100,000 people are not going to do business with us today, right now. Those 80 in that room, 20 of them just might.
Right. And I think that's
and all 100,000 are not our people.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. It's not just spray and pray, right? It's almost like, let me get my message that's acute and get the people that actually want to hear it to follow me. And I don't think you need to have 100,000 followers to feel that way. You could have 100 followers, but that 100 is tuned in and listening. That's super powerful. Wouldn't you agree, Sal? Like when we did this podcast, nobody was listening. You know what I mean? But we still did it. And now we got a few people that listen to our shitty little show.
I'm proud to be part of it today, guys.
Yeah. So let's talk about, so obviously moving that boulder is difficult, but the consistency is really important. What platforms do you suggest people kind of focus in on if they're just starting out?
Well, it depends on where your ideal customers are. Let's put it that way.
That's a great point.
because if I'm a real estate agent, we'll speak from the agent or agent side of things right now, and I'm trying to teach millennials, or I'm trying to help millennials buy and sell homes. I'm probably not going to start at Facebook. I'm going to go to Instagram and maybe TikTok for right now.
Yeah.
So, however, if I'm helping people who are downsizing, getting ready for perhaps assisted living, maybe, or just downsizing, getting ready for a lifestyle community type of a property, I'm probably going to go to Facebook.
Yeah.
So it really depends on where your ideal customers are. As long as your ideal customers on the other side of that platform and you're comfortable using that platform, then go for it. You just can't go wrong.
Yeah. So what do you say to people that are skittish? So one thing that I get pushback on, because I'm always telling my people, you got to get out there, get your brand. We talk about it quite a bit, but a lot of times what happens is individuals are looking for that perfect video or that perfect script, or I've got to get this just right, and I've got to have the words just right. And I always said I would rather err on the side of action over inaction. Right. So
Yes.
if I would rather have a shitty post over no post. Does that make sense? But people get
Very
paralyzed.
So.
They get so paralyzed. So how do you get over that?
Well, okay. First of all, I'm not the first to say this, but done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And then you get over it by, by one thing. Let it go, dude. Let it go. Let it go. Because the first thing we think about is we put ourselves out there and we think, oh my gosh, everybody's watching. Like, what if my hair wasn't just right? What if I stumbled? What if I said something stupid? What if my background showed something I didn't want it to show? And all of a sudden you need to really realize that people don't care about that. And in fact, only the people that you want to attract will see the positive in it and will reach out to you as a result of that. Second thing I want to say is learn to love your haters.
Yes. I love
learn
that.
to love them, because there's, first of all, if you had time in the day to mess with them, it would be so much fun. That'd probably be my second job if I wasn't doing what I was doing today.
Trolling? Would you be a troll?
I would be an anti-troll.
Yeah.
Anti-troll, just to say, you know what? I mean, shouldn't you be out selling something?
Right.
When's the last time you sold something? I scroll through your page and I don't see anything. I don't see any sales since 1974 or whatever that is. But that's obviously, I'm tongue in cheek here.
Yeah,
but the point is, learn to love your haters, because that tells you that you're getting somewhere.
It's funny that you say that, because Sal, I remember I was always uncomfortable because nobody is naturally super comfortable doing things. Like, I've done a million videos, I've done commercials, I've done all this stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're so good at it." I'm not really that good at it. I'm nervous as shit, just like everybody else is. It's just, how do you channel that? How do you deal with that? Because everybody, I think, has the same insecurities and feelings every time they do something like this. Am I wrong on that?
No, I have butterflies in my stomach right now.
Right.
You know how many podcasts I've done and how many stages I've spoken on? It doesn't even matter. Every single time I do. And I relate it to this, Paul. I think that when people feel that way, it's because they actually care.
Yeah.
They care about what it sounds like, what it looks like. They care that they're putting their best face forward. And I think if you're not nervous at all, that's awesome. But it could mean maybe you should care a little more. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think it just goes without saying that if anybody out there thinks that anybody on stage is super comfortable with it just because they've done it a lot of times, there's no difference between you and everybody else. They're just as nervous. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Oh, yeah.
So how does a realtor today, in today's market, in the sea of people, stand out when there's a lot of agents now utilizing marketing in a much higher sense? So how do you kind of pull ahead a little bit in front of everybody else?
Well, I'm gonna repeat on you here, because this is the best way to say it. You've got to define, develop, and display that brand. And and I know that sounds sterile. So if you will allow me to just elaborate just for a moment on each of those.
Yeah.
In the define phase, you've got to figure out who those ideal customers are for you. And those are the people you want to work with every day. We have a formula I'll share with your folks, and it's called the HEAP, HEAP, as in a whole heap of business, right?
Okay.
And helping you to choose who that ideal customer is. First, it's an acronym, and it's the H stands for someone you can help, someone you can truly help. Have you been through that phase of life before? Have you worked with people like that before? And if you can really help somebody or have the expertise in that, that's what you should go for. The E stands for somebody you enjoy working with. Life is too short, as Michael says, to dance with ugly personalities. The A is somebody who truly appreciates what you bring to the table. You can work yourself to the bone and somebody's not going to appreciate it, right? Those aren't the people that you want to work with every day.
Right.
And finally, P, somebody who's profitable for you. And it doesn't mean somebody who's only buying $1 million homes. It could mean somebody who's buying that, $275,000 home, but there's a lot more of them, and they're going to introduce you and refer you to a lot more people just like them. So when you pull that formula together, it will help give you a great idea of who you're best suited to serve. And when you do that, that will also help you figure out, okay, which of your points of differentiation, things that really set you apart, are you going to lead with in your brand? Because two things have to happen. That point of differentiation or brand identifier, if you will, what you want to be known for, needs to be important to that ideal customer. And significant. It needs to be meaningful to them as well. Important and meaningful. Because if it's not, then why do it? If you're out here saying, I'm the agent who does this, but your ideal customers are on the other spectrum, it does you zero good. You've got to align those two. So in the define phase, that's what we do. In the development, you've got to figure out, okay, what does this brand look like, sound like, feel like? Everything from your logo to the colors to most important thing of all is the brand messaging. That's your story. Things like your elevator pitch. You need to be able to tell somebody in one sentence what it is that sets you apart.
Yeah.
And who you serve and why you serve them.
Yeah.
So, and then of course the photos. A lot of agents do this. They go out and they get their license, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go get a photo shoot. Yep. Okay, well, what kind of photos? What image are you trying to portray? What props are in those? It's either just this stuff headshot like this, right? Or it's more creative, but creative in what sense? That's why we don't do the photo shoots with our folks until the entire story, the brand colors, the logo are developed. And then we take a look at, okay, now what are the photos of you need to look like? Because your personality has to reflect the brand and the thing, what you want to be known for. And then finally, display. That means we take all those awesome things and we put them with graphic design, with customizing your website, your social media platforms, your printed materials, things like that, infusing those branding elements that tell your story into those designs on a very consistent basis. So if you do those three things, that's going to help you stand out, because I guarantee you 95% of real estate agents have not even begun to do all of those things.
True. And now when you get a real estate agent, Tonya, is it more of a seasoned real estate agent? Because a lot of this stuff does cost money. And when you first start as a real estate agent, it's like a lot of times they have a phone and a list of maybe a few friends, and that's about it. How does this new agent start moving this boulder so they can get to a point where they can kind of be more sophisticated in this space?
Well, the first thing is, a lot of agents ask me, well, if I'm new to the business, and we have them on both ends of the spectrum. We have some that are brand new and some that have been in it 30, 40 years.
Sure.
And they ask me, well, I don't know how to brand myself yet, because I don't even know what who my customers would be. I don't know what I enjoy. I don't know, and it's like, well, hang on just a minute, because this is where you have a chance to write your own story. This is where you have a chance to say, you might not know if you want to end up in, this neighborhood or that neighborhood selling, right?
Right.
But you would know the type of personalities, the attributes of the people that you want to do business with. The things you enjoy in life. The things that you're passionate about, things that matter to you, and who you connect with best in life. Are you somebody who really loves older people because you appreciate, them, you appreciate their wisdom, and you've always been drawn to them, and so maybe that's where your passion is. Or are you somebody who wants to work with millennials because you have kids that age, or you want to work with millennials because you are one? Yeah. So you start with that framework. And once you start with that, you build that brand. And of course, it can morph over time, but who you are and where you come from and why you decided to do real estate and serve people in that way, that's not going to change.
Yeah. No.
So know your own story before you begin.
Right.
I don't know if that's a thorough answer for you, Paul.
Perfect. It's perfect. It's absolutely
think about too, like, specifically, someone who's attracting buyers, right? Like, there is no quote unquote cost for them, right? It's something that's free. So it's somewhat of an even or level playing field, I should say, for at least that aspect of it, the cost, right? So you got, and as an agent probably starting, you're just like, well, I want to help anyone who wants to buy a house. So that's what I see all the messages all the time. Hey guys, I just got licensed. If you're looking to buy or sell, that's that, right?
Yeah.
Facebook,
that's
3-4 months later, they're not working.
What was that?
That's what we call the sea of sameness.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Like, hey,
but you or someone would like to buy or sell a home.
Yeah, give me a call, right? It's like, all right, yeah. I mean, because I see it all the time, especially obviously being in this business. They see it all the time on there. But the reality is I work with a lot of really good agents with a really good foothold in their community, right? And I see consistently a lot of the same type of clients, right? Same like industry, same demographics, whatever it is, like they've attracted and built themselves that brand, whether or not it's necessarily on social media or not, but through word of mouth or whatever, they've presented themselves as, I'm your guy, right? Yeah. You fit in this bucket essentially, and I'm probably going to be the most recommended and best fit agent for you. And whether it was through social media, word of mouth, online reviews, whatever it is, that person was attracted to the person who put themselves out there like that versus just the guy.
Yeah. Your brand does attract people. Let me tell you a story with when it goes wrong. So I had a lady contact us and come into our program. Her name's Jacqueline, and she's in Texarkana. And she said, I have noticed over time that I'm just attracting people that need more help than I can give them. And they're not my ideal customers. They're just not the best fit for me. I'm more, I want to work with people who are, more professional in nature. They have good credit, that's who I am, but I still get all these referrals from people. And it's because, quote, I work with these people and I show them respect and I do what's right by them, but that's not what I want my business to look like.
Right.
And so when we branded her and we invited her onto our podcast to tell her story about how her brand was working for her, she said the coolest thing I think we've ever heard on an interview. She said, my brand helps me say no.
That's a great thing. Yes. You have to be able to say that.
It was a beautiful thing because she said, I'm seeing fewer and fewer of those referrals because now my brand has positioned me and elevated me here. Yeah. And her brand identifier is real estate refined. She's a very refined, lovely woman, well-educated, beautiful. And she wants to run a very refined business where she's working with professionals and people who pretty much know what they want and will allow her to do her job. And that's what she's attracting now. So it helps her say no to all the rest of the people. When she is so kind, she doesn't want to have the word no come out of her mouth.
Right. Right. No, that's funny that you say that because Sal and I, we've talked about this. We've built our business, and unfortunately, there are some people we can't help. And saying no is actually really powerful because saying no, that's not my type of client. I'm not suited to be the best help for that person. There's somebody else out there that is going to be better for you, and I want to help you find that person, but I'm not going to be that person. That's kind of like, but wait a minute, you turn business away? Yeah, right. We do it all the time.
You
right?
bet. You bet. And here's the great thing. Where else in life can you turn business down and still make 25 to 35% referral fee?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a very
What have you
lucrative industry.
lost?
Not in
Yeah.
the mortgage business, but
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I
But-
get you there.
but with us, like, it's really nice because, hey, you do, like, for example, we aren't the strongest in jumbo loans, but you call me, I got a guy for you, call him, right?
Yeah.
Or lower credit scores, I got this person, right? And what goes around comes around. You know, once in a while, someone will be like, hey, man, I'm getting shopped out on this, my pricing's bad, whatever. You want to take a crack at it? Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
It
Great
sets you
example.
apart. It sets you apart because it's like, I know what I'm good at. And I've defined that, like you said, defined it and actually just went with it. And now that's who you become, right? Your brand is who you are and who you become in the business. And taking every single deal sometimes just because you want to take every deal because you're desperate, that doesn't really help the brand as much, right?
That's very true. Yeah. Desperation is no place to work from.
No. So you mentioned, look, the marketing world, the branding world is ever evolving. You mentioned TikTok, for instance, right?
Right.
TikTok wasn't really that prevalent before, let's say, even the pandemic, right? Through the pandemic, it kind of blew up. How do you keep your people ahead of that? Does that make sense? Like, where should people be? I know you mentioned the audience, right? Facebook,
right,
TikTok, you've had different audiences. But if you're so heavy on, let's say, Facebook and you're very foreign to TikTok, how does someone, stay ahead of that and actually start utilizing it when other people aren't? Are there other places that people should be looking other than just TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook?
Well, okay. So first of all, you don't have to be everywhere. I think I want everybody to understand that.
That's good.
Not only do you need to make sure you're where your ideal customers are, you also need to make sure you're where your comfort level is.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who doesn't like to do videos, well, first of all, I'd encourage you to please work on it and try it because this videos are here. We can't get away from them. People want to see that face. They want to know the story behind the face. They want to hear from you. You want to walk into a room where somebody says, oh, I've seen your videos. I feel like I know you already. Right.
Yeah.
So with TikTok, I love TikTok, actually. There are parts of it that I absolutely hate, and there are parts of it that I absolutely love. I can tell you it's where some of today's greatest creativity comes from. There is some great creativity in TikTok. And I think if you are the type of personality that's humorous, you're creative, you learn how to just utilize those tools, and you like that type of technology, then you should use TikTok.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I know there's Clubhouse, out there. I'm not a big participant in Clubhouse. I think everything has its place. Yeah. I think number one, you need to be, if you feel like that could be something that you would utilize and that you'd have a comfort level with it, go in early. That's what I tell people. Go in as early as possible and get that done. To be doing everything everywhere. I know some people that post to 8 different places every time they post something, and they know that 3 of those they have no following.
Right.
So you wonder, why are you wasting your time and effort, doing something like that? So pull it in, dial it in, because it's all about being the niche too. It's like saying 100,000 followers. I used to say in the media world, when everybody talked about impressions, it's like, I don't want to impress 100,000 people. I just want 10 people to buy.
Right.
Yeah. So I just want to talk to 10 people. Yeah. So it's the same thing in social media. There's all sorts of platforms out there, probably TikTok, the most prevalent, and Clubhouse. And I would say if that's where your comfort level is, if that's where you feel you fit, and that's where your clients are, go there.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end. Before we get to 3 questions, I want to talk about BrandFace itself. Oh, wait, what 3, let's see here. Mitchell Tarango is part of our team. What 3 main tips would you give someone utilizing TikTok? I'm using it to build my brand and would appreciate anything you have for me.
Okay. Hey, Mitchell, so glad you have that question. Okay. So first of all, be creative with it. TikTok has built-in capabilities of doing video editing, and you can do the stickers and the words and the icons and the music. You can choose the music. Be creative. Watch what some of the TikTok leaders are doing, and not for the purpose of copying them, but to get the understanding of how to utilize that technology the best. Second of all, don't forget just to be you. because the things that you do in your everyday life, you'd be amazed how people are really interested in that kind of stuff, right? And I would say third, make sure to always infuse somehow what you do. If you're a real estate agent, if you're, a mortgage broker, infuse that somehow in there, make that brand connection. So for instance, sometimes if we're out camping or something and we see a sign, we might, and we think it's a funny sign, we'll jump on a video, show that sign and say, let me tell you how this relates to branding, guys, because you're out doing your thing. And all of a sudden you see something that you think, hey, that's a teachable moment. Right. And then you pull those two together and infuse those two. So I hope that helps you, Mitchell.
There we go. So what is, Tonya, what is coming up for BrandFace? I know that you guys have written a best-selling book. I think you've got one coming out here pretty soon that your father wrote, what was the name of it again? It was the Raising of a Rebel. Are you the rebel?
No, my dad is the rebel and I am the writer.
I got it.
So yeah. So this is a book about my dad's life. It's his memoir, actually.
Nice.
And it's written by me. And I wrote this because, I always look at who a person is by how they were raised. What was it that from your childhood that impacted you, that no doubt made you the human being that you are today? Well, his story is unbelievably incredible. He is the son of moonshine family. And his mom and dad were both alcoholics. Violent alcoholics at times. His dad went to prison. My dad was pretty much kind of raised himself after that point. And he went on to become a high school basketball star. He actually, in 1966, scored an average of 31 points a game without 3-point lines.
That's a lot of points back then, dude.
That's a lot of points. He was ranked number 7th in the state that year. Wow. At the end of high school season, he found out they were pregnant with me.
Oh,
so
there
goes basketball, but there also goes Vietnam. So,
so it sounds like a very interesting story for sure.
It really is. And I think that it connects with what we do at BrandFace because it is about telling stories. Yeah. It is, what is your story? How did it make you who you are today, doing what you do for the people you do it for, and how does it make their life better?
Yeah. How is BrandFace today? Where are you guys located? How can people, do you have to be in Atlanta where you're at, or do you have clients all over the country?
Oh my goodness. We've got them in 4 countries, including 41 states in the US.
Wow.
And we have, out of all the clients that we've had, we started this about 8 years ago, about 90% of our business is real estate. And we have probably only met 3 or 4 agents in person. So it's been 100% virtual, way before the pandemic. Actually, before Zoom, we were working off of other platforms doing video chats and so forth before Zoom came along. And then we hopped on Zoom right away, and we've been on Zoom ever since. So it's all virtual, and we have a virtual team that's also all across the world. We have them in Asia, in Great Britain, in Colombia. And so we have a team that's all over the world, and they serve specialties, and they come in and they interact with each agent as they're going through the program to really help them pull that brand together. So it's been an amazing journey. It's been a lot of fun. And I can tell you one last thing, the people in our program are some of the finest people that we've ever been blessed to work with. It's awesome. Just such a blessing every single day to serve these agents and to know that we had a part in helping them get their story out there.
Well, congratulations on all of that. That is a big undertaking to have that many clients all across the country, different countries. It's really a testament of your personal branding and hard work that you guys have done. So you guys are enacting, you guys are not only just, it's funny to me. I always think it's odd when you've got people that just teach, but they don't do. You know what I mean? Right. So it's good that you guys actually are doing what you preach. So, but now we are in the section of the show for 3 questions. This is where we just ask you 3 random questions to get to know you better, Tonya. You ready for it?
Yep. Fire away.
First question I'll start with is, if you could live in any decade, in any period of time, and just relive that decade, and which decade would you say you would want to live in?
I kind of like the old Western cowboy and Indian days, right?
Yeah.
I like that. I'd want to be the gunslinger though. Right? I want to be the one packing heat and, shooting out at the OK Corral.
I'm the guy working the bar with a shotgun back there, just hoping nothing goes off. That's what I'm doing, right?
That's okay. I'm a nice gunslinger. I wouldn't shoot you.
Oh, good.
I'm only after the bad guys. Like I'd want to be the angel gunslinger.
There you go. I'd be in the bar, the saloon, playing blackjack and getting shot for cheating. So that's awesome. If you could be anybody for a week, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I would say there's probably a lot of people I would want to be, but I would probably, and this is an odd one, she's passed now.
It's okay.
But my Aunt Ethel, that was her name. She's a quintessential Southern woman who lived her life in complete service to other people. And I never heard her one time complain. She took care of an invalid brother who was in a wheelchair from the time he hit his late teens until he was in his 50s. She bathed him, dressed him, fed him every single day, got his breakfast and lunch ready to before she left for work at 6 a.m. to work at a chicken plant where she stood on her feet all day long and then came back home and cared for him again.
Wow.
And she took care of almost all of her siblings in their dying days and waited on them hand and foot. And she passed away at the age of 100.
Wow.
And so to know what it would be like to live that life and never once complain, I'd like to have that gift. Yeah, I would, because I'm human.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it,
but I'd like to know what fortitude, where that comes from, what would make you be that kind of a servant in this life and still have no complaints the day you leave it.
Well, Tonya, you live a life of service. You service a lot of people in this industry. So I think it carried down at least on some level for you.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Sal, do you have a question you want to ask?
No. Well, hold on. I can think of one, but I think that's pretty interesting. Like you said, like how can you go through your whole life serving others like that? But I think some people just get a sense of fulfillment, right? If you felt fulfilled every night you went to sleep, I think you'd probably live to 100, right?
Yeah. Well, her parents were both dead by the time her mother died when she was just 13 years old. There were 10 kids in the family and the twins were 6 months old. She took one twin to raise, her sister took another twin to raise. And that's where that responsibility started at 13 years old. She had to get up and cook, making biscuits over a fire, for 10 kids and then their dad every day. So that's kind of where it all started. But I always like to think, I wish I could just go back in time and get into her head.
Yeah. All right. Next question, Tonya. What is your biggest fear? What scares you the most?
Oh, you're going to laugh. Snakes. I hate them.
I'm not laughing. They're gross. Are you serious?
I don't care. Everybody says there's good things. There are good snakes. Leave the black ones alone. It's like, what? I don't see color. I see slithers.
Yeah. If you can move on the ground, if you can move on the ground without legs, it's creepy.
It's super creepy. And they're always in some place you don't expect them. They always sneak up on you. It's like nobody ever woke up. Well, few people do. And that's why I stay away from those people. Wake up every day and say, oh, let me just wake up next to my snake today. And it's going to all be about, think about people taking their dogs to the park. What do you do with a snake?
You put on a leash, I guess, and you walk.
I mean, that's how I feel about people with pet tarantulas and whatnot. It's like,
I don't get that.
They think they're beautiful. I'm like, man. I guess I understand how someone might like that if they're into bugs, but how do you become into bugs?
Now, listen, I'm not judging. I just think they should all have their own private island.
Yes, like Snake Island. You guys can do whatever you want, right? Yeah.
Snake and Spider Island, go for it.
Yeah, don't try to normalize, like owning tarantulas to me. You won't win.
No.
Like,
if an animal can hurt me
Gross.
or like
Yeah.
like do something and then like or can hide, like I'm out. I'm
dude,
out on it.
in college, my buddy bought a snake and
So
had it. And he was like, I mean, it was college, so he wasn't always of the best mind. And the thing escaped and went into my buddy's hockey bag.
oh no,
Like,
dude.
Found it in his hockey bag in the rink. Like,
no, sir.
yeah,
I'm out on that.
like, you know, I mean, what, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm not a big snake guy, but you know,
I think I'm getting hives right now.
I'm just thinking about it.
Yep.
Tonya, I want you to tell the audience that's listening how they can get a hold of you, how they can reach you, because obviously you have a lot of great insight.
Thank you so much, guys. So you can reach us by going to BrandFaceRealEstate.com. BrandFaceRealEstate.com. And then if you want to schedule a chat with our team, find out how we can help you build your story, what's involved in that, that is DiscussYourBrand.com. You can go there for that.
Now, is that like a free consultation to start off with?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
It's a free consultation. When you get there, you can decide whether you want to go more of a route of do it yourself, which we have a course for that, an online video training course, teach you top to bottom every detail about building your own personal brand. And then we also have an option where we build it for you. So you can kind of choose when you get to DiscussYourBrand.com the route you're most interested in.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. Well, listen, Tonya, I can't thank you enough for doing our show again. You are always a wealth of knowledge in our space. And I think it's something that we should talk more about, which is branding. And I love it. I love all your success and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm touched by being invited on yet again.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you guys on our podcast.
I'm in on that.
Bold branding, because you guys have built this and everybody knows inside real estate.
Yeah. Thank you.
We need to have you guys on. So thank you again.
I'm in on that. I'm totally in on that. So thank you so much, Tonya. You have a wonderful day and weekend.
Thanks. You too, guys.
All right.
Bye now.
I love it. She's always been a good guest. She has some good ideas, and I think she's spot on. I think she doesn't take branding from like, oh, you've got to be this big brand. She knows it takes work, and she kind of starts from the bottom and starts from the beginning and kind of figuring out what your brand should be. So I really appreciate that about her.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, marketing and branding and all that. I think, especially as a small business, right? Like you don't usually become a big business without focusing on your brand, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think
yes.
Maybe once in a great while you invent something no one else has and you become a brand.
Sure.
But often in the rat race of our daily mortgage and real estate and insurance and whatnot lives, right? Like, how are you going to set yourself apart? Like, you don't focus on a brand, especially when you're competing on a very visual level.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, you're going to fall behind, or you better have a really good network.
I mean,
God bless you.
Yeah, you could have a business and not brand, but like, I just think if you want to get to the next level in our business, because there's so many new businesses opening up every day there's another mortgage company, every day there's another real estate agent. And for you to really kind of have an audience, I think it's really powerful, and I really appreciate her having her on. So, all right, man, that is it for our show. Sal, do you have anything to add yet, or any more?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Got to get to it.
All right. So for all of those of you that have stuck around, thank you for listening to this show. We really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and share. And please leave us a review. That really does help us out a lot. If you want to find the live version of this, it's on Facebook /IRE podcast. You can also go to IREpodcast.com and anywhere that you consume your podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We are out. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate, the nation's top real estate podcast. Don't forget to follow us at irepodcast.com and everywhere where podcasts are available.